if you, give your brand to a PR agency, you're also giving up control. And you may find yourself in places that don't fit with your ethics or with what you want your company vision to be. By handling it in-house, I've been able to go after the ones that matter.
I'm so excited to have Natalie Lennick here. She is an incredible member of our PR Starter Pack community. We actually worked together during the height of the pandemic in 2020, where she bootstrapped her company, and now she's making such a huge impact with Green Evolutions. Welcome to the show, Natalie.
Thank you so much for having me, Gloria.
So can you tell me a little bit more about your company and the various organic PR wins that you have gained just using the methods without any kind of PR reps or contacts?
Absolutely. So we met back in 2020 and we sat together and worked through my first pitch, because I just started the company end of 2019 and was just very interested in starting with some advertising and looking at PR. And my company, Green Evolutions, we make concentrated shampoo and conditioner bars. So each bar is equivalent to about 3 plastic bottles worth of product. So this is one of our shampoo bars. This is our newest lavender vanilla bar that we just came out with a couple of weeks ago. It's a big hit right now. And that bar is equivalent to about 3 bottles, like I said, of plastic liquid shampoo. I was really excited to start the company and get everything together. And I had no idea how to really start to get my name out there. My background was not in advertising. And as much as I love my product, I wanted to be able to get people interested about it, but also to get them interested in the company and everything else that the company was doing from an environmental perspective. And we're also, a portion of profits goes to endangered sea turtles. As you can see, our mascot is turtle, because they're at risk from ocean plastic. So I was really excited to work with you back in 2020. And one of the first things that I got was a small spot in Philly Magazine. And that's one of I'm based outside of Philadelphia, and that's local. And I got a little tag in one of their roundups of local companies. And that was very exciting. And that type of promotion was much more meaningful than, say, like a Facebook ad that runs for, just a couple of days, because every time somebody searches for my company, that little tidbit in Philly Mag comes up, and it comes up over and over again, as opposed to, an advertisement on Facebook or Twitter, which shows up for a couple of days and then goes away and nobody ever sees it again after that.
Yeah, I love the compounding effect where it builds on top of the next. So now that you've gotten Philly Magazine, you've gotten so many, and I haven't even caught up with you, but can you just kind of just list for us all the different media interviews or placements or mentions that you've got organically?
Oh, absolutely. So recently I've gotten into Forbes magazine. I was in Martha Stewart Living. I've been in Apartment Therapy several times. I have been in Insider, the Philly Mag one that I mentioned. My God, there's been so many.
You've Apartment Therapy and also Vegan Mom or something, right? Some mom magazine.
There's been a couple. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, there's been a couple smaller gift ones, which has been really great.
That's amazing. So did you have anybody representing you or anybody pitching on your behalf, like a PR agency, or it's kind of all the CPR method and the DIY?
No, it's been all the CPR method. And I started with the initial pitch that you and I worked on. And then I kind of branched that out to become less about the product and more about different areas of environmentalism to also. So I've been able to, using your methods, not just pitch the company, but I've also been able to pitch myself and my experience as an environmental activist and target. So some of the, articles that I've been in have been, my company, my brand, and the product, and how awesome the product is. And some of it have been doing things about Earth Day or other environmental issues like Plastic Free July. I was in the Forbes article that I did, actually. I had reached out to this journalist a couple months ago. She came back and said, and it was for something else back in, I think in like January or February. It it might've been something around Earth Day. And I had reached out to her with some stuff and she said, no, this isn't going to work for me right now, but I'll let you know if something else comes up. And I put together some stuff for Plastic Free July. And when we got to end of May, beginning of June, I started pitching, some of the Plastic Free July items. And I reached out to her and she said, I don't think this will work for me right now. However, I can turn this into a profile on you and your company. So I had started with going after, trying to get the profile, and then it didn't work. And then a couple months later, I was pitching more interest pieces. And then she came back and she's like, oh, no, that doesn't work right now, but we can definitely do the profile now. So journalists love it when you have a concrete pitch, and that pitch has so much information that it makes their jobs easy for them.
Oh, I love
and
this so much.
Most of my success has been when I send a fully fledged pitch that can easily be turned into an article, and journalists come back and they say, oh yeah, this is great. They might have a couple other questions, some stuff that they want to flesh out. And then it's magic. It's great. So I've also gotten into Condé Nast. I was in Condé Nast Traveler, and I got on CNN. CNN Underscored put me in a list of their best travel products for 2022.
Oh my God, Natalie, this is the first time I'm hearing this as well. So my jaw is dropping. There are people out there paying thousands of dollars for fake founder profiles in like second and third tier magazines, and you were able to get a founder profile organically. That's amazing. So what have you learned about the pitching process and rejection? Because I think so many founders, they're just afraid to press send, or if they get rejected, they say, oh, well, this doesn't work. I mean, this person ghosted me, but you just kept going with it.
Yeah. So, I mean, the nice thing about pitching is that journalists they get hundreds of emails a day. And it took a while to kind of overcome that. Yeah. Do I want to send this out? Am I going to get rejected? What's going to happen? But it's pretty easy to get past that, because no journalist ever emails back and says anything other than either it's not right or they just don't respond because they're too busy and it's not a fit. And if you don't get a response, it's not a fit, then you just move on. I have never, ever gotten an email from anybody saying, oh, this is terrible. Why would you even pitch this to me? This is so bad. I'm not interested in this, blah, blah, blah. And I think everybody has that fear of rejection just being like such a harsh rejection, but journalists don't have time for that. They're busy. They're writing their articles. It either works or they hit delete and they move on to the next email. And I have been able to craft a list of journalists, which is nice, that I can go back to, every couple of weeks and say, hey, you might be working on something like this, and maybe I can offer a quote in an article if you're doing something based around, whatever holidays coming up. So like right now, I'm pitching for gift guides because it's now it's November, but I've been pitching for gift guides for a couple of weeks now. So I have a couple of those in the works. But also, how to be more sustainable at Halloween, how to be more eco-friendly around Thanksgiving, talking about doing less meat around the holidays, things like that are also environmental issues that play into, getting my company's name and my name, in a quote as well. So those are also very, very helpful.
Now you make, shampoos and body care. So one might say, well, why would she be talking about less meat? So how did you get over that imposter syndrome of saying, I can talk about this and I can talk about all of these other issues as well?
Yeah. So really the first couple of months, after we worked together, I pretty much set myself just to pitch to, just pitching the company, just pitching the product. And then, I had seen you, I think you were talking about it, as also being an expert in your field and saying, don't just talk about your company, because the original pitch that we put out, that we worked on, had, the bars are great. They're helping the environment. The company is great. It makes your hair look great. And that's good. It was a great pitch. It was short and sweet, and it did its job. And it was really good for getting in gift guides. But then when you get to January, what do you do in January? What do you do in February? What do you do in March? So I started in my own, for the brand social media. I would put together articles for January. Everybody is starting over in January and trying to clean up. And what do you do with all this stuff now that you want to give away? So I started to pitch, even in just putting in my own social media, like, hey, it's January. You got a lot of stuff, doing a clean out. Make sure that, stuff gets donated if it's useful. Make sure that stuff gets recycled if it's trash. And here's the different ways that you can recycle those items. And then I started off with that, and then was able to build different articles off of that. And that's how I got into one of the apartment therapy articles, was for how to be less wasteful when you're moving. And, a lot of people start the new year with big changes in their life, and moving is definitely one of them. And so I was able to pivot into going from gift guides into going into articles like that.
I love that. And it's all about your mindset, right? I mean, did you have a single journalist say, well, you're really focused on shampoo bars, so you're in no position to talk about this?
No. I've never had anybody say that. And I'm able to show, with my experience as a founder, that isn't nothing, right? We should all be brave to use our own voice. Starting your own company makes you an expert in your field, and you should feel comfortable talking about things that are important to you. So one of the reasons I started the company was not just, because I couldn't find the product that I was looking for, but there weren't products out there that had the environmentalist backing that I wanted to see. These big organizations that are out there, Unilever, and they make hundreds of millions of bottles of shampoo a year, and they'll say, oh, well, we're pledging by 2030 we're going to be plastic, we're going to have all recycled plastic, which is I don't want to flat out call it a lie, but it's not a reasonable expectation. It doesn't move the needle for where we need to be in caring for the environment, and especially with everything, from climate change. We need to be moving faster and making better decisions.
Yeah, I love that so much. Lean into your why. So let's get into the actual tactical of like a subject line follow-up. What have you found to work in terms of subject lines, attachments? Like, are there certain times of day that work? Cadence of follow-up? Do you follow up on email and DMs? How does it actually go down?
So when I first started, I started following up with people via social media. And unfortunately, I found that wasn't as helpful because a lot of people don't check their DMs, or only have their DM settings to people that they follow that allow them to DM. I could reach out, if somebody was asking specifically on Twitter to say, hey, I'm looking for this source. And then I would reply to the tweet and say, yes, here, I'm happy to offer a quote. And then they would end up following up over email, usually, with that. I found that most journalists, they want you to contact them in whichever product they're using. So if they put something out on LinkedIn that they're looking for a source, or they put something out on Twitter, a lot of them have their own Substacks. And I've been able to find journalists that work on issues in my field, and they have their own Substacks, they have their own newsletters. And it's great to be a member of their newsletter, because then they specifically send out to their newsletter group, these are the things that I'm working on today. And sometimes they only have 2 or 3 days to put something together and get it out. And I've been able to get articles as well in that manner. As far as the subject lines, it has to be short and sweet, but also enough to know that they know that you're pitching towards their request. So if they put out a request to say, I'm looking for, a list of hair care products, I try to say something like, this sustainable bar is saving more than space in your bag. But if they're looking specifically for something else, environmental wise, then sometimes they just want you to reply with the name of whatever their article is. And I'll say source for and whatever they're working on. Because again, they have hundreds of emails that they're going through. And if they see a subject line, it doesn't make any sense to them, they don't have time to deal with it.
So when you talk about newsletter and then also, finding them in the sources, can you talk a little bit about how you found their newsletter and how you can get onto these journal requests? Obviously, I say this, in my master classes, you follow the hashtag journal request on Twitter, but maybe there's some other tools that you use to know what journalists are looking for.
So one of the things we worked together, we had developed a list of journalists when I had worked with you. And a lot of those journalists were working on specific items, in my field. I also look, as I'm constantly reading other articles and seeing which journalists are working on, articles that might be something that, oh, I could have pitched something to that, or I could have done a quote in that, that's in my wheelhouse. And as I'm reading and researching, then I'll follow those journalists and keep them, I keep a tab of journalists that would be good to work with in the future. And when they have something that comes up, they're all very vocal. They'll either post it on Twitter or they have it on, other forms of social media. Some journalists I've made contact with through Harrow, which is a great resource as well. And in using Harrow, I've been able to, sometimes I'll send something through and the journalist comes back and says, it's not a good fit. But I've made a connection with them at that point. So then make sure that I'm following up with them. And then in a couple of weeks, I'll try and pitch them something else. Like, hey, I've been working on this piece. I can either put it on my blog or I can give it to you and you can run with it. And if your editor will let you run with it, then that's great. That's another article that you got, for yourself for the year.
I love that. Now, there's a lot of people it's kind of a muddy landscape, right? There's the contributors and the bloggers, and there's people who want to get paid for articles. So how do you distinguish who is the right person to pitch the story to?
Well, I mean, you can obviously, if you're following them on social media, you can look in their bio and they usually will have a link to a website where they'll say, these are the articles that I work with. These are the publishers that I work with. These are I'll look to see what their last published articles were. Like, what did they write for the past 6 months? If they wrote for papers that I never heard of, or because there's a lot of journalists that are out there that are just writing for like very specific industry papers, which are great, from a technical perspective, but they're not reaching the masses. Forbes is reaching the masses, Apartment Therapy is reaching the masses, Martha Stewart. Those are the places that are reaching, the everyday consumer. There's a lot out there where they're like very small blogs. And I think it might be a good fit if they have a decent following. You can look at their social media followings to kind of get an idea of what their reach is. But yeah, there have been people that reached out to me and I've said, you know what, I don't think this is a good fit. It's not going to work for whatever reason.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever been asked for a commission or, some kind of gift guides? They want you to have like a skim link or an affiliate link where they get a commission. Talk to me a little bit about that.
So I have, there are several journalists that will only work with skim links. And that's something that's on my 2023 agenda, is to start working with that, because there are certain publications that will only put products in if they can, get a commission on it.
Yeah.
And I understand that that's fair. If it were the right publication, I would consider it. However, I am especially proud that I've gotten into all of these other magazines without having to do any of that.
Woohoo, that is amazing, because I think a lot of founders, we recently had a reporter from New York post, and she says that they do prioritize, the affiliate links. And so everybody got a feeling that the only way they can get featured is if they gave some kind of commission. And you are living proof that that's not true.
Yeah, there are some. I know like Reader's Digest is one of those that like they have to have a commission link, but it also, as a consumer, it kind of changed my perception of reading these articles too, because I know that when I'm reading an article from one magazine to another, I know which ones are only doing skim links. Those companies, they're essentially paying for that press.
Exactly.
And I've had people reach out to me to say, hey, we'll put you on our gift guide. It's $1,000 to go into this gift guide. And I'm like, no, that I'm not paying to get into a gift guide. I want my customers to know that my product is great because it's great, and not because we're paying somebody to say nice things about it. If I want to put $1,000 out into advertising spend, then we'll do Google ads or Facebook ads or Twitter ads or something like that, and get the spend that way.
Yeah, that's amazing. I hope you're available for our next monthly member call for PR Starter Pack members to show them the way, because I think in this landscape, it's such a money grab, and they're getting so many, I don't want to say like discouraging things, but they're like, oh, there's no way that I'll get featured. So hopefully you can come on and we can talk a little bit more about the gift guides, because we are still in gift guide season and it's not too late, because there's always last minute gift guides. There's
Absolutely.
There's also even after Christmas, like what you can spend with your gift card. And now that you know that it's a blue ocean out there, there's no limit to the stories that you're pitching. I love what you said about New Year, New You, about, all the things. So that's amazing. Do you have any other tips for people when it comes to sending samples or like following up? Because, I always say definitely follow up. No more than once a week, but it's fine to follow up every 7 to 10 days in the DMs, or just switch up your subject lines. Do you have anything that you found that is particularly useful to build that relationship, even after they rejected you?
Obviously read receipts and being able to see if they've clicked on the links is extremely helpful. If they don't do any of that, then I will follow up, but but at a different rate. So like if somebody didn't do anything at all with the pitch that I sent or the email I sent, I'll follow up again the following week, because some things just fall through the cracks. And if I don't hear back from them again after that, then it's just not a good fit, and that's okay, because my time is also valuable, as is the journalist. If I do see that they engaged with the email, that they clicked on the link, that they were reading, about my company, about my product, that they were looking at my bio, things like that, then I will definitely follow up and make a point of reminding them, being like, hey, I think this might be a really good fit for you because X, Y, and Z. It'd be great to work together. More of a little bit of a personal note instead of just resending the pitch again. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. The more you reach out, the more opportunities you'll have.
Yeah, I love how you don't see anything as a rejection or, you kind of begging at the gates of their mercy. It's very much, how can we collaborate? How can we co-create? We're equals, instead of you like begging to be featured. And that's very clear in this interview, and how you just, your why, you're a part of the solution. Now, you might not be a Fortune 500 company, but there are people out there looking for the solution, right? Who want to be more environmentally friendly. So what do you have to say to the founders out there who know they have a great product, but they're just so intimidated and they feel like it's either too much time to do PR on their own, so they'd rather pay an agency, or that it's just going to be one day, someday, but not right now?
Well, the thing that I love about doing it on my own is the feeling of accomplishment, of knowing that, my experience and my products are so great that, we got into all these different magazines, which is just an amazing accomplishment. But I also feel like I have control over my brand, and I'm able to make sure that, where we're going is a really good fit, right? The magazines that we're getting into are magazines that, a lot of them are magazines that I read and have read for, a decade or more. If you, give your brand to a PR agency, you're also giving up control. And you may find yourself in places that don't fit with your ethics or with what you want your company vision to be. So by handling it in-house, I've been able to go after the ones that matter, and also be able to, like I said, I have turned down opportunities because I didn't think they were a good fit. Whatever they're writing about doesn't jive with what we're doing as a company. I'm not going to I don't want to put an article in a magazine, that's saying that climate change is a hoax. It's like, that's not going to, that goes against, my company's brand and values and everything and science. And so being able to do it in-house gives me complete control over how my company is presented, to the outside world.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much. I'm so inspired by your journey. And I mean, the fact that you have so many organic media hits with zero commission, zero pay to play, just bravo. And I know anyone who's listening out there, whether it's their first draft of many pitches or even, just reading, just they never even imagining that they could even do PR in this way. Thank you for being an inspiration. Thank you for being a part of our community. Is there any last parting words that you want to say to our listeners who are maybe just eyeing their first media feature and thinking that it's maybe too far out of reach?
Absolutely try it. I mean, the more you pitch, the more experience you'll have and the better you'll feel, the more comfortable you'll feel, the more confident you'll feel. Um, and it takes time, but once you get that first win, it's like I said, it's having an article in Martha Stewart Living is phenomenal. And that's out there when people, the first thing somebody does before they're thinking of buying a product or a service is they look on Google. And when you put my product in, it comes up with all these gift guides that we organically were able to get into. People wrote about our product because they loved it. People included, my advice, my guidance as an expert in their articles because of my experience. And that builds on it. Once you get one, you can build on that and build on that and build on that. And I have a little, in my bio and in my future pitches, I put a little note in there saying like, yeah, we've been in apartment therapy and Martha Stewart Living and been featured in Forbes and Condé Nast and all these other things. And that helps, you build upon credibility, and it
Yeah.
makes a stronger case for why you should be in future articles as well.
I love that. Thank you so much for being a part of this. How can people find you if they also believe in the same values and ethics of saving our planet? How can they get into your world? How can they purchase one of your products?
So you can go to greenablutions.com and follow us on Instagram at greenablutions to see what we're up to. It's a great gift for the holidays coming up for shampoo bars, conditioner bars. They're awesome for everybody. Anybody who loves to travel, they travel great. And they're nice little stocking stuffers as well. So you can check us
Hey.
out at greenablutions.com and again on Instagram at greenablutions to see what we're up to.
Thank you so much, Natalie, for being here.
Thank you so much, Gloria, for having me.